Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We now begin with our second session. The topic is Integrated Energy Development Plans for Sustainable Habitat. It will be chaired by Dr. Prodipto Ghosh, Member PM's Council Climate Change. The other speakers are Mr. Bibek Bandyopadhyay, Advisor MNES, Mr. A.K. Tripathy, Director MNES, Professor Atmanand, MDI Gurgaon, Mr. Vinod Kala, Founder Director EVI, and Mr. Rahul Singh, Vice President A to Z Powercom. I request Ms. Juhi Rajput, MD CNFC Media, to come and make a brief presentation on the topic.
Very good afternoon, everybody. Well, our next session is Integrated Energy Development Plans for Sustainable Development. The energy policies that we have adopted since independence to serve the socio-economic priority of development have encouraged and sustained many inefficiencies in the use and production of energy. Well, in this context, the Honorable Prime Minister directed the Planning Commission to set up an expert committee to prepare an integrated energy policy linked with sustainable development that covers all sources of energy and addresses all aspects of energy use and supply, including energy security, access and availability, affordability and pricing, as well as efficiency and environmental concerns. The broad vision behind the energy policy is to reliably meet the demand for energy services of all sectors at competitive prices. Meeting this vision requires that India pursues all available fuel options and forms of energy, both conventional and non-conventional. Further, India must seek to expand its energy resource base and seek new and emerging energy sources. Finally, and most importantly, India must pursue technologies that maximize energy efficiency, demand-side management, and conservation. A competitive market without any entry barriers is theoretically the most efficient way to realize optimal fuel and technology choices for extraction, conversion, transportation, distribution, and end use of energy. The tax structure and regulation across energy subsectors should be consistent, and institutional arrangements should provide a level playing field to all players. Well, these are some of the topics that we'll discuss.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Dr. Prodipto Ghosh to start the session.
Thank you. And after this fairly comprehensive tour de horizon by Juhi Rajput, I don't know how much myself or the panelists can really add, because it's so succinctly and cogently captured the essence of the problem. But the point is that that India has moved on beyond the integrated energy policy. In June 2008, the Prime Minister released the National Action Plan on Climate Change, and that has 8 missions which comprise the core of the National Action Plan. And then we have the National Solar Mission, which seeks that by the year 2022, India should have a minimum of 20 gigawatts of installed capacity in solar. Then we also have another important mission, which is the National Mission on Sustainable Habitat, which has a very large number of provisions on the demand side. There are provisions for moving to mass transport options, which would reduce the energy consumption and emissions from private automobiles, and several others. So, of course, the point about the National Action Plan on Climate Change is that it is not exclusively focused or premised on addressing climate change. It is premised on meeting our sustainable development concerns. The National Action Plan on Climate Change has put together a set which also address aspects of GHG mitigation and adaptation. So, with these introductory words, I will invite Mr. Bibek Bandyopadhyay, Advisor MNES, and Mr. A.K. Tripathi, his colleague in the MNES, to make their presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the context of energy economy, the very subject what we are dealing today is a sustainable habitat. As a human being, we need a shelter to protect ourselves from the extremes of nature. We want comfort for our living, and comfort in our working space. In the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, we have been implementing a program of solar buildings for more than 3 decades now. When you talk about solar architecture, it is simply an architecture which takes into account the available natural energy sources. For example, you try to maximize the use of sun during winter and try to avoid it during summer. And that's why you can keep your inside environment comfortable. But we do agree that the soil air temperature, which is certainly above the comfort temperature in many of our places, is to be brought down, and therefore external engines like air conditioning is required. But then the requirement of air conditioning can be brought down drastically if the buildings can be made climate responsive in their design. Now, renewable energy has come to a stage, many of them, I'm not talking about all the sources, which in many places have been found to be economically viable. Many things have been developed, many programs have been implemented, but these need to be quantified and to find out that how really we are progressing. In our program, we have introduced a rating system where the buildings can be got rated and can find out that how energy efficient and how climate responsive they are. My colleague, Dr. A.K. Tripathy, will just give a small presentation on that rating system.
Our ministry is implementing a national level program on green buildings. Over the last 30 years, the designs and developments have taken place over the solar passive architecture buildings. Plus, the green building also has the features of energy conservation, water conservation, using the energy efficient materials, and so on. Many designs have been developed. They are available in the literature, and under a program, it is being promoted. India also has a lot of, India has many climatic zones, so one design doesn't hold good for the other. So there are separate designs for these things. In fact, since September 2006, there was a need was felt that we must have some kind of rating system to promote the green building concept. So there are two rating systems at present prevalent in the country. One is the LEED, which has been imbibed from the LEED US. And this is the Griha rating system, which has been developed by the TERI in association with the ministry, and it takes care of the total Indian conditions and energy conservation building codes, NBCs, and so on. And the government provides a subsidy, complete subsidy for registration fees for the government buildings, and 90% subsidy for any private buildings which comes up under this program. And there is also some incentive for the architects to take up this job for their new clients. In addition, there are certain promotional incentives for the workshops and the trainings and all. So a Griha secretariat has been developed, created, and this secretariat is a registered independent society which takes care of the building registration, their evaluation, and awarding the ratings for the building. And apart from it, the green buildings which have the renewable energy systems, they are eligible for the regular incentives which are available in the ministry. And most of the incentives now range from 30 to 40% of the renewable energy installations. These are the few glimpses where the commercial colonies which are coming up, they have the solar installations. Thank you very much.
To actually, implementation of ratings and environmental appraisal requirements for buildings. I mean, they went ballistic over it, and there was very, very strong opposition to this whole program. Coming in just 4 years, I think India has moved a long way, and in fact, quite apart from the examples that you have set out, a look at the Sunday papers, the property advertisements show that virtually all property developers now make it a point to advertise the merits of their projects on the basis of their energy efficiency and environmental sustainability.